Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And I was wondering how different today's conversation would be if you'd stayed working as a shepherd.
I'd be whistling at you rather than talking to you. Aye, so yeah, it's been a long road, but we got there in the end, eh?
Yeah, it's so cool. Like, I do a lot of research on my guests, and I was going back into your story, and I think people maybe see the tip of the iceberg now, where you're fighting the UFC, you've just won by guillotine, people are so hyped up. But what interests me, and it's kept me going for the last 4 or 5 years of the podcast, is really understanding how on earth somebody breaks through the surface and becomes known.
Yeah, for sure. It's like everybody wants to be a part of you when you're winning, and it's a kind of sad thing, but it's just the way it is. Like, people will navigate to things like money. If you're making loads of money, people will navigate to you. People are doing well in sports, they navigate to you, and it's just like a process of winning. Everybody wants to be with the winner. Nobody really wants to be with the loser, which is just the way it is. And
human nature.
so my missus is hating me right now because I've been away from. I'm home, but I'm away from home a lot, and I call it riding the wave. You know, everybody's wanting a piece of me, the fighter. Not so much me myself. Like, obviously, I done really well 2 or 3 weeks ago, so the wave is still going, and I'm just slowly. I'm going to Marbella next week, so that'll be like a relax, you know. And not many people want to be like want to speak to me over there, so I'll get the hood up and not worry about it.
It's good, man, and I really resonate with that riding the wave. Like, I believe momentum's a hell of a drug. We were talking about my sales career before we hit record, and when things are going well in that, you want to just keep going. Like, you just want to fight, training's going well, people want to talk to you, you're pushing your media profile.
Yep.
It would be so silly to not maximise that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I've always been a big believer, and it's hard to explain to someone that doesn't really know the kind of, I don't know if this is the right word, the demographic of it. So, like, me coming and meeting you is networking with you, and then I'll go to Glasgow Warriors on Saturday, and I'll go to Glasgow Warriors on Tuesday, and I meet these different people, and I'll go here, I'll go meet Deck and Dom and at Miller and Carter and do all these sorts of things. And you know, I feel that opens so many doors, but also can close some doors, but the doors are always open for you later on. You know what I mean? It's very important. Like, everybody's, oh, I know a guy. So I know a guy, and I want to make sure I'm keeping in with these guys and making sure that if there's a possibility for me to gain from these people selfishly, which is everybody's out for themselves at the end of the day, super important. Like, knowing people and networking with people is
it's
super
a very
important.
In the grand scheme of things, it's a short career as well. And as we'll go into with your journey, these are the periods that you need to maximise in terms of fiscally, but also in terms of like your audience, the number of connections you can make. So all on board with you really maximising that time now.
Of course. And what's the harm in just having a chat with someone? You know what I mean? It doesn't always need to be financially beneficial, you know. It's just a chat, and at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, I promise I always do my research. So I was speaking to some of the guys that used to play with at County back in the day in Stirling County, and they were describing what a hard rugby player you were. But I know that one of the kind of seminal points for you was not making the Scotland U18s squad.
Yep.
What was going through your head at that point in time?
So, since day one, I always wanted, maybe not be someone, but I wanted to be a sports person. I wanted to be involved in sport. I really liked sport. I liked the feeling that I got from exerting myself and exerting my body. So rugby was my kind of lease at that point. And I played rugby. I think I was a good rugby player, but I wasn't an eyes up rugby player. I didn't stand out from the crowd. You know, your Finn Russells, your Adam Ash, you know, some like Adam Ash, obviously you can see the size of the guy. You know, he's got genetic advantages elsewhere, but you know, I'm just a kind of regular size guy now, you know. I wanted to be the best rugby player I could possibly be, and that didn't really happen. So I didn't get picked for the team, and I had kind of ultimatum from my gran. Not an ultimatum, she never made me do anything. She's like, okay, we didn't get picked for the Scotland team, you know, I supported you as much as you can. What are you going to do? And I was like, well, what could I do? And I enjoyed being a farmer. I was working as a farmer out of school hours, in school hours, but we'll cross over that later on. But you know, so I had that kind of ultimatum. I had to go and do something. You know, you can't just sit at home. So that was kind of what we had to do. Didn't get it. I didn't get into the team, so went to college. It was a rigmarole. I've got terrible grades. I was terrible at school. So there was a bit of a rigmarole trying to get me in. We got in through other avenues, talking about my physical performance in PE. You know.
And when you're going to study agriculture, they're probably measuring for work ethic and
Yeah.
application rather than like who cares if you've got your higher English or your higher maths?
There's a lot, believe it or not, there's a lot of things that you need to do, like measurements,
course.
you know, square footage, all that sort of stuff. So in the grand scheme of things, like when you're looking at a bit of paper at school and you see is the A, B, C, and they're like, add these A, B, and C's up, and you'll get this number. And it's just like, it seems a bit neutral to me. Whereas if you were to tell me, go and look at the silage pit, figure out how much square foot's in there or whatever, and I would be, oh, okay, I need to figure out that. Whereas in school, it's a blank canvas, and I really struggled to deal with that.
Practicality is
Of
something.
course, of course. And there was no gain from me looking at that white bit of paper with these silly wee lines on it. So I struggled massively with that. But it translated over into the college. But they brought me in. It was great. So because it was such a big rigmarole to get into it, and I remember feeling it, and they had to bring me into it, and they were talking about it, and they sat me down, and it was a big rigmarole. I got home, and it was like 3 weeks later, you know, one of the players who was in my position had injured his ankle. They phoned me up. Chris, do you want to come in and play these games? So that would have been my in, and I didn't get the in because I decided to go to agricultural college. After that, I did this pretty much the same talk at Glasgow Warriors last week, and it resonated a little bit more because some of the players are in my team still, and they were in the...
Mate, there were boys that you played with at county. Like,
exactly.
I was training with Adam Ash this morning, and he was telling me stories about you as well.
Exactly. So, you know, where was I going with that? Yeah, so I remember standing, I worked part-time in Castle Douglas as a kind of job experience, and I remember watching the Scotland squad, and they were playing against, I don't say Wales, it was whoever it was, and I remember speaking to the guy, and I said, I used to play with him, and that was like, those words came out of my mouth were like, you know, you see that old dad that's at the party, and he said, I used to play football, but, you know, but I hurt my knee, you know, I could have made it.
Oh, I got into the party and too young.
Yeah, and I'm like, I remember saying it and like fucking want to just pull those words back out the room and put them back into my body. I thought, right, that can't happen again. I'm either going to become super successful or I'm going to dedicate my life to sport. So, cut a long story short, obviously being a farmer and stuff like that, you know, it was like really difficult. It was a kind of dead end job. If I would see it, like it was maybe 2021 when I was a shepherd and I was winning dog trials. I was on one man and his dog. Like I was doing really well. Like I was at the top of what I could be at the age I would be at.
You were applying yourself in the field that you'd applied yourself for.
Exactly. And the next step for me was I needed to own a farm to be getting to where I wanted to be. And that just wasn't going to happen at the age I was at. And, you know, from there, I kind of just kind of stuck in limbo. I was going out drinking the weekend and I didn't really like the way my life was going. And a series of unfortunate events happened. I lost my mum in 2014, and it was the day of my first ever MMA fight. So, no, the day before my first ever MMA fight, it was the day of the weigh-ins. So I woke up in the morning, ready to go down to Stirling to make weight. My gran came in and told me the horrible news. So I went ahead with the fight anyway. Big people, like at the time, I didn't really think it was a big deal, but I went ahead with the fight. People were like, why did you not just pull out? But it felt right at the time, especially my mum used to always push me into fighting. She was a bit of a fighter herself. And so I decided after my fight, I remember standing in the foo bar with my ex-girlfriend at the time. And I was like, I hate being in here. Like, I was like, why am I in here? I just feel like I was with the wrong people.
Yeah, for the non-Scottish listeners, foo bar is like a dump nightclub in Stirling, isn't it?
So hated the people I was with. You know, my ex-girlfriend, obviously. And loads of other people. And I thought, I just fucking don't want to be here. So I decided that day that I was like, stuff it. I'm going to go into the gym and enjoy the gym. I love fitness and I'm going to maybe become a PT because life can be ripped away from you in a second. I could be driving down. I could have been driving here and died on the motorway. So I decided to go into the gym. From there, I slowly moved into MMA and it snowballed into this really great thing. And I've said this many times in many podcasts, but out of something terrible, it's probably been the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm not one of these guys that like get depressed, or obviously I do, but I bury my head in the sand. I bury myself into workouts. I push myself so hard that I just forget about everything. There's like an ostrich, I just put my head in the sand.
We've all got our own coping mechanisms, and we've all got our own things that are healthy or unhealthy. So after the passing of your mum, you could have chosen to keep going out every weekend in Stirling and Food Bar and Dusk and
Exactly.
getting on it and getting into potentially trouble because we know what that path looks like.
Yep.
Or you could take that more positive coping mechanisms, which again, people can criticize you for. Like, but I can't believe you do that after the death of your mum. But you're like, nobody can be in your shoes and walk a mile in them and tell you what they should have done.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, it was the greatest gift, believe it or not, and I feel it kind of happened for a reason. And seeing that now, you know, it's been what a journey it's been since then, and I've really like took it upon me and used my mum. Like, I wear a pendant. I only wear it to the cage, wear it around my neck. It's the only possession she had was her wedding ring and her fingerprint that we got made from obviously when she died. So we were being able to see the body. We were able to get that because she had no possessions. Obviously, she struggled with alcohol, drugs, all that sort of stuff. So that was the only possessions we have, and that's now why I take her to the cage, you know.
Have you ever rubbed beef fat on your face? Sounds crazy, but that's what I've been doing since January with No Tox face balm. I've been really focused in the last few years on reducing the number of toxins that I take into my body, whether that's getting a filter for the water in my tap, whether that's removing things like heating plastics or drinking plastic bottles. The skin is the biggest organ in the body, so it was about time I considered what it was I was rubbing on my skin, and that includes things like moisturizers and other potentially harmful chemicals. Since January, I've been using No Tox face balm. My skin looks and feels the best it's ever felt, and you can benefit from that too. The link will be in the show notes for notoxskincare.co, and you can use Cambro for 15% off. For me, man, I was welling up when I seen you get given the mic after the fight in Paris, man, because having seen you be quite stoic, that was the first time I'd seen you like well up and be like dedicating it to your mum, and I saw you pulling at the pendant and shouting, man. It was a real thing of beauty, I will tell you that. For sure.
It's a lot of people just like, especially there was a couple of kind of news articles or whatever, were like just not maybe journalists, sorry, were like kind of slagging me for crying online, and they were like, everybody loses their parents. And like, no, people don't just lose their parents the way I lost my parents. My mum was murdered by someone else. So shut your fucking mouth. And you can bleep that out if you do swear words on here or YouTube, whatever. But, you know, people don't understand the big story. And that's why it's so, like, raw when I went in there. And I've literally, since 2014, dedicated my life to that one moment. And in my head, like, I write my goals on my phone. And, like, that was one of the goals, was to be able to shout her. And that's the way I could thank her, you know what I mean? It's... So
I mean, I thought it was beautiful. Like
for sure, everybody did. But
you could see the comments on, like, even I rewatched it today before coming to help me prep, and I was thinking the comments on YouTube are like, Chris, you've done her proud. Like, Chris, you're an inspiration. And it's we guys that are like watching this that are maybe going through maybe not that exact situation, but something similar where they're hurting,
of course,
and they get to see a role model doing it and shouting out their mum on the big stage.
Of course, and crying. And I said to Mike Bisbing last time, I said, I promise I won't cry this time. You know, when I won my last one, but you know, like, I'm on to the next stage of my career now. Like, that's done. You know, she's with me. I know she's with me. And, like, that won't happen again. She'll never get a shout out again, you know. And that's it. And that'll be it in the past. And that'll be my, like, nobody knows my mum. And there's, like I said, she has no possessions. But that's something that that video is viral online. And it will be for the rest of her days. So
but you can show Tiger it when he grows up. Everything like that.
Exactly. So it's one of those things, you know, I'm glad it's done. And I remember I used to go on long runs because it gets me focused, and I used to always think about what am I going to say on the mic, and I managed to nail it. And I didn't, what I planned was not what came out, you know what I mean? So,
but that meant it came from the heart, didn't it?
For sure, raw, and it was even better than I ever anticipated. So, yeah.
So cool. What's the journey like to go from first MMA fight in 2014 all the way to the UFC, where we see you now?
Empty pockets, for sure. I fought for free for many, many years and went through so many ups and downs that obviously builds you into the fighter you are today. Many people will take the easy route. I was never the most skilled, never the most like athletic or skillful or smartest. But man, I had grit, I had determination, and you cannot kill someone who does not quit. And that's me. Like, in my whole life, there's nothing I've quit at, nothing. And I will go until the wheels fall off. And anybody, I remember there was all these guys I looked up to and were all in the regional scene with them. And, you know, they would always be doing so well and they're just that wee bit in front of me. And I thought to myself, I'm getting you, I'm catching you. But then what would happen is I would surpass them because they would maybe have kids and it would become easy just to say, no, I'm going to focus on the kids, you know, which is fine, but that ain't going to be me. I'll never quit. And, you know, I've surpassed them and did better than them. And, you know, I've fought guys who they have fought and beat them in tremendous fashion. I thought to myself, you know, done myself some good justice here, you know, and just powered on. But I will not quit. And, you know, I'm on the run and I've never stopped being on the run. And people take breaks and holidays. I took a holiday with my missus in Cyprus and I had 4 days off complete training. And since then, you know, I've learned that, you know, these 4 days off are quite important. But before that, I'd never taken a day off.
Pedal to the metal.
Yeah, so those 4 days, you know, after one of my fights was a realisation that maybe a rest is good, you know.
I think one of the worst feelings you could have when you get to your deathbed is not exploring the potential you've got.
Yeah, for sure.
And the way you're speaking there, you're like, say we've got this till that's filled with Chris's potential. You're just wringing every last drop out of it
Yeah.
by that graph period. And I think a lot of people want to look in the mirror at the end of all that we've done in our lives and be like, I gave it the best shot. And I think if we join the dots between MMA debut in 2014, fighting for free for years, and then being the guy that wins 50 G's in a fight, it's a lot of pushing to get the absolute most out of what you've got.
Of course. I'd be quite happily, and you know, I've built my amazing family. I've given birth to 2 amazing children, met my amazing fiance. I could literally, if I was on my deathbed, I would be very happy right now with what I've achieved. And probably throughout my full life, there's probably not been a day went by that I haven't given my fullest potential. So I don't feel that, you know, like people say, you know, in many years to come, you know, I'll be happy. I'm happy now. So I'm giving it my fucking all. I have no plan B. I have nothing else but MMA. I wake up, I think about food for MMA, think about recovery. And well, even when I wake up, you know, I'm like, recovery, you know, like silly things like consistency of getting up in the morning. Like I get up at 6:30 every morning with only because I've got kids. It would be 8 o'clock if I didn't have kids, but they're up at 6:30 every day. And I'm like, okay, this is good routine. Might not be like what I want, but it is routine. It is good routine, and routine's great. So, you know, I am happy with what I've accomplished so far. And if it was ever to become like, say I had some sort of illness and I had to go, I'm happy with what I've accomplished so far. And, you know, it's only going to get better because I'm doing the same thing. You know, I'm on that same track.
You said fighting for free in the early days, so of course you means you have to maybe do your PT on the side.
Yep.
Hosted Big Sinky in the same seat as you, Sterling Players, and he mentioned that you did a few shifts for him as well.
Yep.
What is the reality like as a fighter in those early days where you're having to just put bread on the table through some other means?
Yeah. So I've always resonated with the saying, you know, you have to do something now to become something that you want in the future. You know, like sometimes you've just got to, I call it feeding the cat. You know, you just got to do it every single day. You need to make sure that you get up, you feed your cat, and then you go away to work. You know, so you have to be prepared to do something in the now to become something in the future. Because money makes the world go round. Everybody talks about money. Money is involved in every part. You know, you need to buy this microphone, this bottle of water. You know, it's just the way it is. So I was always willing to do what it takes to get to where I am. And one of my friends, Robert Dempster, I've already given him a shout out about the same thing. I lost one of my fights. I had to go back to work for a little bit, just because the way that the UFC pay you, it's quite cutthroat. You know, you get half your money if you lose and stuff like that. So I had to go back to work, and I was a bit butthurt about it, you know, and I lost a sponsor, not because I lost, but because of loads of things that happen in business.
Bro.
Yeah, a wee bit. And I was a bit pissed off, and I was venting to him, and he goes to me, you know, he's very successful himself, and he goes, listen, you would pay any sort of money to be in the position you're at right now. So, you know, put it in the back burner. You felt a bit sorry for yourself. Let's move on. And it really like sunk in, like a guy like that, just, he's obviously in a completely different line of work. And I thought, you know what, you're right. And I got over it. And the good thing about it is I went on holiday with my family to Disneyland Paris, and I completely forgot about it. I got back, I felt fine. I was like, okay, time to move on. And the good thing is when you lose a fight, you think everybody's going to judge you, but they don't actually care. Records are for DJs, and people don't care about your losses. They only care about your wins.
See, fighting the level you're at as well, and if you look at anyone who's fought at the top level of UFC for even a short period of time,
Yep.
you come up against other guys that maybe have a great day, or somebody lands a lands a freak punch or you get a freak injury,
Yep,
like
yep.
the statistics and the kind of surface area of luck, you're going to lose at some point, even if you are a great operator.
Totally. One of my friends, Grant Dawson, who I train with in America, he lost a fight. He's probably one of the best guys in the gym. And he goes, I didn't get into the UFC to have an undefeated record. I got into the UFC to become a champion. So, like, well, that makes sense. Like,
but it's great you've got
of,
people around you that are saying these things to you. So, your mate Dempster and your mate there that's telling you these things. It's good to have people in your corner that can give you both a harsh truth, but also like a helpful lesson too. Too many people have like yes men in their corner that are like, oh, like you could have been sulking after losing that sponsor and having to go back to work. Whereas you got somebody that went, look, life happens, bro. Like you need to crack on here.
Yeah. No one's going to do it for you. You know, and I think it was obviously amplified when I lost. See, if I won, I wouldn't even have cared. You know, you've got the cash in your pocket, you're not caring. So that was just amplified in that stage, you know. So it's good, like we said, networking, meeting these people, having a conversation. That's how I met that guy, just over a phone call. And, you know, it's like rolled into this amazing friendship that we have now. So, you know, it's these things really are set out to test you, and you just get on with them, you know.
Yeah. From a fiscal perspective, like some of the jobs that you had to do over the years, what has that looked like?
Oh man, I've done some crazy stuff. Obviously, the shepherding's mental, you know. When you're a shepherd, you're not just a shepherd, you know. You've got to deal with things like maybe they rent out cottages at the weekend and the toilet gets blocked and, you know, the drain outside gets blocked. So I remember standing...
Unofficial handyman.
Yeah, Jesus, man. I remember we had this huge big generator and the drain was blocked. And I remember seeing the toilet roll and all this shit. And I was like, so the idea in the head was, right, let's get the generator, pump some air into it, I'll maybe push it down. So we put the pipe in, stood over the drain, stood over it, and I'm standing over this till, and you just hear the compressor going, and it's working hard. I'm like, oh my God, bang! It was everywhere, all over me. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, this is insane. Power washing me down. Yeah, and then obviously working with Sinky, you know, moving pianos.
That's a hard graft, isn't it?
For sure. But these are the things. So believe it or not, like I was short for money, and Sinky says, you want a shift? And I was like, you know what I do? Because I want to go to the Highland show next week. So I did. Whatever I got money-wise from Sinky, maybe cash in hands, ideal. So you just got to do these things, you know. And a lot of people, I think this culture in this day and age, people are talking about mental health and they don't want to go to work. Work's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get up and secure deals and go to the gym. Sometimes don't want to go to the gym. But man, I'm going to go to the gym because this wee bit inside me that everybody hates, like my missus hates it, but it's just what's got me to where I am. And like, stop being such a softie and just get on with it, you know? Like, what makes the world go round? Like, just determination, the will to win, and the will to make money. If you have money, things become easier. They do. They're just simple.
Yeah, I think a lot of the big problem that we see for young guys in society nowadays is that kind of masculine urge to progress has been ripped away, or like discouraged during the schooling system, or like told like, oh, it's wrong to want to progress. And you get a lot of people who are like comfortably lazy now, and they're told like, oh, it's okay, like you're just waiting to find the thing that you care about. You'd found the thing that you cared about, UFC and fighting at the top level, but you had to suck a lot of shit to get there.
I didn't make it to the Scotland team. It was my biggest dream. But now I'm in the UFC, so who cares? I said that at the Glasgow Warriors and they were all laughing at it. You know, it's good. But, you know, you talk about school. The schooling system is insane. I hate it. I was so bad at school. And it was just because, like, I'd said this as well, you know, a guy had messaged me on Facebook, a family friend, and he's always on at me 3 or 4 times. He's always saying, don't swear. And I get where he's coming from. Like, he's like, the potential for you to get sponsorships, you know, and this guy sees you swear. And I was thinking about it. It's like, I'm a modern day gladiator. Like, if someone's wanting to sponsor a fighter, they're not giving a fuck about swearing and saying shit. So, you know, I said to him, I wrote him a nice message. I tried to be as like nice as possible. You know what I mean? Without just being an idiot and shouting back at him. I constantly, throughout my school years, trod on eggshells because they're like, sit down, stop moving, stop fidgeting, stop doing that. Get inside, stop running around. Why are you sweating? Like, because I'm outside running after the football. Don't be so aggressive when you play sports. I'm like, playing football, I want to win. And my whole school days, I was whipped into this boy to sit in the seat. And now I'm saying to the UFC, they're a big advocate of free speech, so I can say what I want, do what I want. And now I'm free. I feel like there's like that, a big heavy coat has been taken off me, and I can do what I want. And that's why I feel the schooling system fails a lot of people. And that's why we've got these people falling sick with mental health, because they don't know what they want to be and they have no drive. You know, when you're at school, you're told to sit down and stop speaking. Whereas these like huge big businesses want you to be outgoing, talking. Like, how do you like go into a business meeting and you're like, hi. You know, you want to be outspoken. You
With
know,
no personality, you should be coming with energy.
You need the energy. Exactly. That's what companies are employing. Energy, the will to win, determination. Like, that's why you get bonuses. And that's why, you know, like, if you're doing your sales, you know, out calling, phoning people out of hours, emailing out of hours. Like, I've been doing that all my life. You know what I mean? It's just second nature.
Yeah,
But
we're suppressing too much of the masculine natural urge to conquer and do something.
Oh,
I'm a
for
big
sure.
believer that men are either building or destroying.
Yeah,
And at the
yeah.
moment, I think a lot of guys are stuck in a cycle of destroying or sedating themselves with porn, vapes, recreational
Yeah,
drugs,
yeah,
just
for sure.
sat there scrolling TikTok. Like, again, we'll put some of these clips up on TikTok and it'll be you and trying to inspire people. And there'll be some dweeb in the comments that just doesn't understand it. And they're the people that need the message the most.
Yeah,
They need to
yeah.
shake themselves out of the slumber they're in.
It's mental because, like, I was actually on my way to go and see Adam Ash, and I was listening to something online, and it was like everything that successful business people do. There's not like magic potion. It's just need to do these couple things, like be determined, find what you want to do. You know, like, it's not the success like route, or you just stay between these lines and like have that determination to get there. You will get there eventually. Like, I said to one of my sponsors, I was like, they were like, "You're really confident this time. I can feel it." I said, "I've done everything I can. What will be now." I literally like couldn't have done anything. I had 2 bad training sessions the whole time I was there, and I know exactly what it was from. So like, I identified that. So
Do you understand your mind and your body really well now?
yeah, oh, hugely, hugely. A big thing I learnt from my last loss in Mexico City, biggest fight of my life. It was my first fight on my main card. I felt great. I didn't think he was going to beat me. Like, there was probably, like, there's always a slight doubt. I would hate to say I was 100% confident. There's always that 5%, 10%, whatever you want to call it. But I felt so good. I was injured, but I was like, I've got this guy. Like, that's why I took the fight injured, because I was like, way this guy can, in my head, I'm like, there's no way this guy can beat me on any day. Felt amazing. I went in and lost. Excuse me. I went into the same fight in Paris and with the same feeling, and I won. And I went into my last fight, same feeling, and I won. So it doesn't matter how you feel. It's about how you perform. So just because it doesn't feel good on the day, you just need to go out there and do it. You can always fight your hardest. You might not feel great, but you can always fight your hardest, whether that be the 70% of your max capacity or whatever. You know, sometimes you just got to show up. And like you said before, you might get a lucky punch. I use the analogy, sometimes people sleep in for work. You know, everybody makes a mistake, you know. So, like, you're fighting at the highest level, you know, there's a winner and a loser. There's 2 guys standing in front of each other. So, you know, you just got to hash on. And feelings are for the women, I would say.
If you're new to the podcast, make sure you've hit the subscribe or the follow button on whatever platform you're listening on, so I can keep getting fantastic guests just like this one. Your big step up to the UFC was through the Contender Series, which is something that so many people tune into because of the entertainment value for it. But your journey was far from simple, probably quite unique in many ways. Talk us through what that was like.
Probably the most unique. So, great training camp. Had an opponent from the Netherlands, and you know, I didn't, same sort of thing. I felt like, why is this guy being put up with me? I'm well better than this guy. This seems like a good fight, you know. So for me, anyway, to get into the UFC, weighed in. He missed weight. The next day, I was out playing basketball. I ate my breakfast, and the following day I ate my breakfast. I was out playing basketball in the court to try and get my digestive tract moving, just doing silly stuff, shooting the shit with my friends, and 5 missed calls from my manager. What's that? Phoned him up. He's pulled out. I'm like, the fight of my life, and his fight of his life, and he's pulled out. So they said, we're going to try and get you an opponent for Friday. So that's the Tuesday, because Dana White's Tuesday night Contender Series. excuse me. And so he said, try and make weight for Friday again. Sorry. And
good man, grab a water. And the thing with you cutting weight already for the Tuesday means you're probably already
down.
dehydrated.
Down. So I was going to make weight for Friday, so I did it. And I was in the sauna. I was just about to phone my manager. I said, what's happening? Am I getting this fight? No, it's not going to happen. So he says, we're going to get you on a flight back home tomorrow. So I went out. You did what you do. In-N-Out burger, sweets, crisps, all the American foods. Put all the weight back on. Phoned me in the morning, thinking it was going to be, right, Chris, this is your flight times, blah, blah, blah. Had this egg omelette in my hand and a wrap. I was just loving it.
Chowing down.
And then he's like, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. And just immediately, I had like a newborn baby at the time. So I was away for nearly a month. And, we've got a fight in 10 days' time. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have took it. But that fight itself, what I went through, and they knew I went through. I met Dana White and Sean Shelby through the back, and they both came through. And I remember sitting in the chair all smashed up, and both had their hands on my shoulder and like, listen, you've done what you could have. We want guys like you on our show. I'm gonna get you back. Go away, get a win, get you back.
So see, you haven't done those 2 weight cuts, and then
Ended
the
up
one
in
in
three,
and then the one, and then the fight right at the end of that. Obviously, you're not able to perform at your maximum, but there was a level of appreciation post your loss that you were a guy that was dedicated to making it in the UFC.
Yeah, and not quitting. I told you that before. Like, I just don't quit. And a load of people told me, don't do it. Especially my coach, which was probably the right decision, because I would probably tell you if you were my student. But I don't quit, and I don't let these opportunities. It was in the middle of COVID as well, so like that opportunity might not arise again. So we did what we had to do. I felt great, to be totally honest with you, walking into the fight, and then after a couple of exchanges, my just feet and my legs felt like lead. And then we lost the fight, and I went home and did what I was told: go and get a fight and win, come back. So that's what I done, and we ended up fighting Charlie Campbell, and went through some adversity early on in the fight, and ended up knocking him out. Probably one of the biggest knockouts that's ever went through Dana White's Contender Series. Like, the guy was out for at least 2-3 minutes, and that's heavily dangerous. So, that secured my slot into the UFC, and here we are now.
That's how you announce yourself. And I've heard you say before that in the UFC, if you're not trying to finish somebody, then it's the wrong platform or the wrong sport for you.
Definitely.
So for you to get in through the Contender Series with a major knockout, particularly after you'd had that injury to your eye during the fight with Campbell, it just underlined that this is a place that you belong.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the will to win and not quitting, and it's just the place I want to be. Being in the UFC, it's just such an amazing platform to be on. And there is some bad things, but there's bad things in your work, and everyone picks out the bad things. But at the end of the day, a big thing for me is everybody talks about the contracts and the money that you get paid. You don't get paid as much as boxers, but they don't get supplements for free. They don't get the PI. They don't get meals. They don't get one-to-one contact with the PI 24/7, 7 days a week. Like, I'm associated with a business. They're associated with a promotion. So they promote the fighters. And then at the end of the day, like, obviously the UFC is a business. In boxing, they pay all the fighters, all the managers take their money, and the promotion takes their money, and there's no money left at the end. Whereas that's the UFC, they got all their money.
In terms of the UFC, why was it the vehicle rather than, like, say, for example, like a Bellator?
So I fought in Bellator, and it was just the reason why I fought in Bellator was my kind of business plan, if you like, was to fight in there for maybe 2 contracts, get some money behind me, and then exit. I got the exit a little bit earlier than I wanted because COVID. The UFC were the only sporting organisation that were actually running. So basketball was off, football was off, American football was off, and that's when I got my shot in Contender Series. So it was a little bit quicker. I needed money, and I couldn't fight, and I couldn't get into the UFC without going through that. So I just done it, and it was a kind of easy strategy, and it worked out really well. Fluke, I would say, pure fluke. But I say fluke, and people always navigate me in the direction, and you're only going to put yourself in that position. So it's not really a fluke. But yeah, I do agree that sometimes the stars need to align, and they did.
You've got to take your shot when it opens up for you.
Of course, lucky men are always in the area where it's the luck is happening, eh? So,
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, that was a lucky punch." Yeah, it is lucky, but I walked in there, so I can.
And how many times have you thrown that particular combination or that particular punch
exactly.
where it's like a level of mastery when you actually execute it?
Exactly, exactly. And I'll take all the luck I want. It's just loads of people have been saying, like, obviously that's 2 guillotines in a row now. My training partners know how good I am at that technique or that area of expertise. But everybody online was, like you say, saying in the comments, that was a fluke. He fell into that. I'm like, aye, cool. Boom, second one.
Yeah, it's cool because you were known for your striking
Yeah, for
up
sure.
until recently, but the last 2 fights to finish with a
Well,
choke.
everybody thought I was a striker, so then they tried to take me down. And then when they take me down, they're getting submitted, and then vice versa. A grappler's going to try and take me down. I'm just going to strike with them. I'm the problem for a reason. That's why I get called the problem.
Because you can fight in both
I
regards.
can do anything, mate. I can do anything. My girlfriend calls me arrogant, but I can do anything I want to. I literally, like, we're in my daughter's gymnastics, and she's like, can you do that in the bar? I was like, yeah, I can do that. She's like, go then. I just tried it and done it, and it's just, I've just got that mentality that I will try anything. I was the kid when you were 10, 12 years old, you're all going to jump off a bridge into the water. I was the first guy to do it because I would stand up and I would go in my head, 3, 2, 1, jump. And I wouldn't think about the consequences. I wouldn't think, obviously it's scary, but obviously I'm not going to jump in and potentially die, you know what I mean? But like, it was always scary. I was always the first one to go, 3, 2, 1, go. And that's why I think I'm successful as well, because I'm always going to take that chance. And that's why I done with the Contender Series as well. Fuck it, I'm going to go for it,
How much have you had to work on the different skill sets? Because there's always something that comes more naturally to somebody. So like, I guess having looked at your earlier career, it seemed like striking came more naturally. Whereas now to see you finishing with choking guys out, that seems like something maybe it's been like more of a process.
Yeah, I was very fortunate enough to meet Robert Whiteford, the first ever guy to be signed to the UFC through Scotland. And me and him since, I can't even remember a date, probably 2014, we've been training together, and he's been working on my grappling. So I am a dedicated individual, and if I have something in my mind, it'll become conquered. Like I say, I write everything on my phone. Every sparring session that not every sparring session, but every sparring that I have a note on or I did wrong, it's in my phone, so hopefully I don't lose my iCloud. But yeah, I need to write it down, and I'm just so determined to, like, if I've got an area and a direction, I will get there eventually. It just takes time, and I think MMA is the long game, and I'm happy for it to be a long game because I'll never get anything quickly.
The two of you moved out to American Top Team
That's
as a
right.
training facility. How important has that been?
Huge. So for selfish reasons, I don't have to deal with the kids when I'm back at home. I'm very fortunate that my fiance looks after the kids. That's been the goal. I want to get her to look after my family, not the nursery. You see the way the education system's going. So I want her to be at home.
Well,
with
if
the
you
kids.
act as the provider, and that means going out to America, getting in the cage, doing the business,
Yep.
and you provide for the family to create that strong, secure unit.
Yep.
I think that's the ideal model.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what my missus wants as well. So, American Top Team has opened my eyes to a various of different things, like sparring too hard. We don't want to do that. We need to get ourselves to the fight. Different techniques, strategies, and just being over there in the gym where the coaches are not trying to make a living through personal training. They don't need to worry about the revenue from the gym. That's Dan who deals with that. He's the gym owner. He's made his money elsewhere through casinos on boats and stuff like that. So he's not worried about what's coming into the gym as such. But the coaches themselves have got their fighters. All they need to do is look after them. He'll rain or shine, they'll get their money at the end of the month. So it's just an amazing gym, and the top tier training partners is just you can't simulate that. It's just, there's nothing in the UK. It's just America. Like, you get the odd freak gym like this, the Fighting Nerds in Brazil right now. That seems to be the gym that's coming up, but American Top Team is regarded as the best gym in the world, and it's the biggest as well.
Yeah, it's one of the themes that I've seen throughout different guests that I've interviewed a Commonwealth swimmer, Dan Wallace, and he moved to the US to go to the same training as Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps, greatest swimmer of all time. So he was like, I need to be in that environment. In the same way, you're at American top team, and the guys that you're training with and rolling with and drilling with are amongst the best. So you give yourself the opportunity to get some of that rub off on you.
For sure. And sometimes as well, I don't know about you, but people are very impressionable. Like really high up guys, you know, like there's a guy, Yaroslav Amosov, or I think that's how you pronounce his name. Very, you know, he's from Ukraine, went through the war. He's quite he seems like he's got this aura around him. You know, he's a good guy to hang around with. Ask him questions, he helps me. You know, when you're just rubbing shoulders with these guys, it's not just on the mat, it's just when you've been in their person, you know, that you pick up on things and strategy and almost like networking, if you like. And speaking to Grant Dawson as well, and Moicano, all these different types of people, different styles, you know, it's like almost like I'm taking a wee bit from everyone, just building this wee empire within myself to compete at the highest level.
I found a lot of the guys that are operating at the top level have a more abundant attitude than a scarcity mindset. Now, by that I mean that they're willing to be like, oh, Chris, have you ever thought about doing this? Or Chris, here's something I can help you with.
Yep.
Whereas guys that are maybe at the same level or around about you can sometimes be a little bit more unwilling to share the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Whereas the guys that are like doing great, they're never worried about being like, oh, let me give Chris a hand up.
Yep.
And they're willing to be like, oh, this is what I'm doing in my training, this is what I'm doing in my diet. There's not like it's not like they're not keeping secrets back. They're much more abundant and willing to share.
For sure. I think as well, when you're in a room like that, you've earned it. So they're quite happy to, you know, and I've got stuff that I can show them. So it's like a kind of mutual
value exchange at that point.
Of course. And, you know, that being in the room with these guys and them giving you that information, you know, this is like kind of people. I'm not a believer in karma, but good things happen to good people, and if you're giving out good, you're going to receive good too.
Yeah, principle of reciprocity. Like I'm a big believer. If somebody asks me a question, I give them value, they're going to remember that Colin Campbell guy was approachable and he was helpful and supportive. And if I ever need something back from them, I would hope that they would remember that.
Definitely. That's a big thing for me. I struggle with in social media because a lot of people message me, especially recently. You know, I find it difficult to just look at the message and delete it. Because like I can't just like speak to everybody and just like I think I had 247 messages on my Instagram. That was like literally an hour after my fight, and then I had 130 WhatsApp messages. I was like, how am I even going to get through this? And I find it really difficult to just ignore people, but I'm slowly getting there and managing to just delete silly stuff. You know, I know people will understand it, but they just want to message me, which is good, but it's quite a difficult thing for me to do. I always want to give people the time of day. And that's why I say to people, like, the guy messaged me, was it yesterday or the day before? He'd seen me in town and he messaged me on Instagram. And I said to him, don't walk past me. Come up and speak to me. Because I'll not reply to your Instagram. You're lucky I've seen this today. So just walk up to me in the street and say, hi, Chris. And just ask for a picture like he wanted. So he wants me to sign some stuff. So I said to him, next time I'm in Glasgow, I'll meet you. You can show me whatever you want and I'll sign it. And but I do struggle with the Instagram thing and the social media, trying to get back to everyone. It stresses me out.
Yeah, it's difficult. I use Instagram.com/direct/inbox on my laptop, and I can reply faster. Because laptop's way faster than phone as well, and you can do voice note on laptop now as well. So
perfect.
I've been bashing those out as well, which helps. When an episode goes viral, you want to thank the people that are sharing it to their story and actually pushing it in the same way you win a fight. I can only imagine the level that goes to.
Yeah.
It's funny, like I'm a big believer that not all screen time is created equal. So you scrolling TikTok or scrolling Instagram Reels, that hour that you maybe waste is very different to the hour where you're in the DMs talking to people. Like I'm a big believer that energy creates energy, and I've heard you speak about this before. When somebody's given like positive energy towards you, I want to use that as fuel. So like, oh bro, just listen to your episode with Deck and Dawn about crypto, and I've been investing since 2020 and now I'm up. That feels unreal, and I'm like, right, amazing. Whereas like if I'm spending time doom scrolling, that's like taking away from my energy.
Yeah, for sure. I've even seen myself recently, like I'm in the car and I've just picked up my phone and I'm on TikTok while I'm driving. I'm like, what am I doing? Put it down.
It's our chimp brain, bro. We've not evolved to deal with this technology.
So bad. I'm literally like drove halfway down the motorway. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in Glasgow. I'm like, whoa.
It's bad.
Luckily, I've got like lane safety in my car, so it keeps me between the
You've
lines.
won 50 G's a couple of times now, so the car's got that tech.
Jesus, man. Jesus.
What does a day in the life during camp look like?
So obviously I try and wake up at least 2.5 hours, 2 hours before training, just to go through get my food in, get my coffee in, do the toilets. I ain't want to be doing the toilet and the mat. It's believe it or not, it's quite a big thing. Like your runners, the guys that get up and run in the morning, they need to get up and get to the toilet. So you go through all that, do your training. Whether it be Monday would be wrestling for me at America, Tuesday will be sparring, and then rest and recover in the afternoon. I stopped sleeping in the afternoon this time around, and I felt like it was better for my overall sleep. But my routine, like I said to you before, was a bit better. I would go to bed at a set time and never napped in the afternoon. I would walk a lot.
I heard you say this because it's a lower impact form of expenditure. Like the last fitness photo shoot I did, I was doing like 18,000 steps a day, but I was doing no cardio on the bike or anything because it meant that I could recover to do my heavy leg session to try and maintain the muscle.
Yeah, of course,
there.
Of course. Just low impact on the knees as well, the joints. So I just go out of my way. I had a car. The first time ever I was able to rent a car, but everybody was like, why are you still walking? I was like, getting my steps in, it will help me lose a bit of weight. So I did that. I would walk to Starbucks. It was like maybe 20 minutes walk in the sun, get vitamin D, get it in the bones, make you feel good, have a coffee, walk back down, go to my nighttime training, whether that be pads or some other sort of training, and then I'll recover a little bit. I don't really watch TV. I probably would watch some Instagram reels or something like that. I do pick up a lot of techniques online, and I'm a kind of visual learner, so this helps with obviously me translating that over onto the mat. I've saved millions of videos on my phone. I should probably
really.
Them,
do you stay as like a student of the game then?
Oh mate, my book is open. If I could learn something from you, I would. I've learned some crazy shit off just people who are like, how did you know that? And sometimes it's just they fall on it, and I've stole it. My guillotine and my front headlock stuff, I've kind of fallen into it through different techniques, and I've built it off that now. So I'll learn anything from anyone, so I'm good at learning. I like learning. It's very important, whether it be financial, whether it be technical or like physical, anything. It's just makes you a better person.
Yeah. What does nutrition look like during the day-to-day? Obviously, it'll differ in a fight camp to now.
Of course, Miller and Carter last night, as you've seen, it was great.
The steaks of the boys.
Oh, Jesus, so good, man. So I'm a creature of habit, so I pretty much eat the same stuff every day. So I can literally tell you the grams of it as well. So
what gets measured gets managed, man. I'm a big believer in that.
Aye. So 50 grams of oats in the morning, 33 grams of whey, 20 grams of peanut butter in the morning with some 20 grams of honey. That's my morning breakfast with a coffee, no milk. I took milk out of my last camp and it helped me lose a bit of weight, which I'll talk to you about at the end. So I would have a burrito in the afternoon. I'd have like 122 grams of rice with a low carb wrap with either 140 grams of chicken or beef. And then I would maybe have a Quest bar in the afternoon, a little bit of chocolate before I went to my training. And then I would have my meal at night. That would either be chicken rice or chicken sweet potato. Same sort of measurements again. Sometimes it would vary depending on the load of training day, but like I say, I'm a creature of habit, and the good thing about that is like the routine will build you into like your refuel after the fight. So I'll eat the same stuff, but way more.
Just increase the quantities, yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
I'm a big believer in reducing the amount of decision fatigue that we have. So, for example, you could do like an if it fits your macros approach, whereas you're doing very much a meal plan approach there, which is calorie counted, of course it is. But like by you knowing that dinner is chicken and beef and rice, you just don't think about it. You just finish, you come home from your training, you heat it up, or you get it out of the fridge or whatever, you've got it, and you're like, right, that's me sorted. Whereas you don't want to be using valuable energy and bandwidth, particularly when you're depleted, on deciding these things.
Yeah, and you want it quick too.
It's why a lot of the top performers I know wear the same stuff all the time. Like when I give like a public talk on sales or communication, I've got like 3 or 4 different polo shirts and one pair of chinos that I'll wear because I know it fits me well. I feel good in it. And I don't have to think like, oh, am I going to look like is that going to be a bit tight on me, or is that going to look loose?
I literally did a podcast in here with Taylor. I don't know if it was on the Map podcast. I was walking up the stairs there and I was like, same t-shirt. But it is what it is, man. I don't buy clothes. I got given this. I get given this. I'm like, oh my God, what have I bought recently that I don't spend any money? Well, obviously I got 50k from my last bonus. Everybody's like, what did you buy? did I buy? Air fryer. I bought an air fryer.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? An air fryer? And I'm like, yeah, it's like, I'm going to do other things with my money. And then I bought a pair of Prada glasses. That's probably the most expensive thing I've ever bought myself, other than a North Face jacket. My North Face jacket was because the gym was freezing in the winter. So like
It's practical.
Exactly. But also the Prada glasses were for fighting. I'll wear them to media days, make myself look cool,
Yeah, it's part of the brand as well.
Of course.
That's cool though. Like, see, recognizing what your material desires are and meeting them to a particular point, because those will always move. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the Prada glasses become, I don't know, whatever the step up. The North Face jacket becomes a Moncler,
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
okay, that's cool, but sometimes that can run away with us, and we can end up just
course.
chasing that.
Of course. I'm not a big believer in material things. It's just like, these trousers are from Boohoo, man. I think I spent 12 quid on them, you know what I mean? It's just not, God. If people knew where I was going, they would understand why I'm pulling the pennies on stuff like that. Like, I feel like I will be a millionaire. I've said it numerous times to my families. It will happen, whether it comes from fighting or business. Anything that happens after fighting will be easy for me. I can promise you that. Fighting another man and dedicating the amount of time that I have to it, I'm probably in debt when it comes to money. So business will be after fighting. And the guy that ran KFC didn't become a millionaire until he was 50. So still got time yet. Still got another 20 years for that.
Yeah,
I ain't fighting for 20 years, I can tell you that.
Of course, bro. Well, you recognise that as well, and that's why the networking stuff that you're doing with the likes of the guys at Crypto Glasgow, with
Yep.
the guys from Prime Secure, all that sort of stuff.
Yep,
It's
yep.
good to know the right people,
For sure.
and that opens doors for you post fighting as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, like the same thing will apply when I leave fighting. It'll be business, it'll be money, so just lucky I get paid to do what I love now.
Talk to me about the recovery element of things, because you were saying that one of the things you learned when you moved to ATT was not to fuck yourself up too much before you're sparring.
Yep.
What do you do to make sure your body's primed?
Cold plunge, hot sauna, sleep is the PED that's natural. Walking, believe it or not, there's some studies showing that you should maybe do a recovery run or a bike, flush out the toxins that are built up, or
Like the lactic
inflammation.
acid,
yeah,
yeah.
all that sort of stuff. Walking, good nutrition, whole foods. Also, believe it or not, some processed foods will help you and aid recovery. So I might not be able to get immediate energy from whole foods, i.e. rice, steak. Sometimes I need to eat some sweets to get that immediate sugar that I need.
It's that higher glycemic
course,
index,
of
isn't
course.
it? Yeah.
It needs to go right into the muscle. Like, I am a Formula One car. I am not a marathon runner, if that makes sense. I'm a sprinter, not a marathon runner. Sorry, I'm completely wrong. End of the stick there. But like, sometimes I just need to get the processed stuff to get it into my body, I'm running on rocket fuel, so I need that, so sometimes you need to, sacrifice a little bit of health to get to where you want to be there. Other sorts of things for recovery. I tried the mouth tape and the nose tape. Didn't really work well for me, as you
For
can
your
see.
sleep quality. Oh,
My
well,
nose
it'd be
is
hard to
a bit
breathe, yeah.
mashed, so the mouth tape wasn't a good thing for me. Beet juice for blood flow. It helps with cardio as well. I'm trying to think what else.
Your missus will like the blood flow as well, bro.
Of course, exactly. So, like, I'm trying to think of other things that I do.
For the hot and the cold, how often are you doing that? Are you fitting that in?
Every day, pretty
Really,
much, yeah. Except my rest days. Obviously, there's some studies showing that if you're building muscle, it's not good to do it every single day. But I'm not trying to build muscle. I'm just trying to get better at beating people up. So hot and cold makes me feel good.
Keep the goal, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned I trained with Adam first thing this morning. Like, we did the sauna, but I didn't do the cold afterwards because I don't want to blunt the hypertrophy response.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
my goal is to be jacked and lean, not to recover fast or to
Yeah, for
reduce
sure.
inflammation.
You need the inflammation for you to recover. Your body needs to battle that, and obviously the splitting of the cells within the muscle. You need that. You don't want to like recover. It's just there's a fine line, and like you say, you're just trying to navigate through this fine line and trying to get to where you're at. Without blasting all the tests and all that sort of stuff that everybody's doing right now. It's a mad thing.
Does that concern you when you see maybe guys that are getting that upper hand on you through doing that stuff?
I don't feel it's such a big thing in the UFC now. We're tested under. I know a couple of people who do that are under the UFC banner. Not personally, like they're not in our gym or anything like that. But I do know people who do it, and it's just part of the game. everybody and every human being is going to try and get the upper hand. It's just human nature. Everybody's trying to be the best, do the best, make the most money. So it's going to happen. And I also know other fighters and other organizations that do the same thing, but they're just not getting caught. But, you know, it's just life, isn't it? And there's no point wasting that negative energy on them. Just focus on you, do better. And believe it or not, I trained with a few guys who are on it, and I know they're on it. They're not any better than the guys that are not on it, that are at the top. You know, I train with these guys like Grant Dawson, Moicano. They're 100% not on it. Like, for instance, a lot of people, have you heard of Arman Sarukian?
Yeah.
Everybody's like, he's on roids, he's on roids. I've trained with him. I don't think he's on roids. Like, I think he's a really good athlete, but he's not on roids. Like, he looks amazing. That's great. He looks amazing. But so do I when I'm lean. So, like, don't use that as your navigation to say that he's on PEDs. I've trained with him. I genuinely don't. I think he's just a really tough, strong, athletic fighter. And people are always quick to jump the gun.
How close do you stay to kind of fight ready in terms of shape and leanness year round?
Leanness and weight, I'm probably about between 6 and 8 weeks. Fitness, car park if you want. I'm ready 24/7. This is plan A, like I said to you before. I'm always ready. If somebody wanted to fight 77 kilos, I would be ready in 2 weeks, you know, for cutting the weight. If we wanted to fight at this weight that I'm at right now, we know we could do it, you know, but it would need to be fair. I wouldn't want to say I would fight at 84 kilos or 83 kilos to a guy who's already done an 8-week camp and cut all that weight, because that would be extremely unfair.
You'd be giving up a lot of leverage, probably.
Of course. So, you know, fitness, I love this. This is my, like I said, I'm still burying my head in the sand. I've got a lot of stuff I worry about, but training takes that away from me. So training is my get out of jail free card, you know, and I use it daily.
What do those last few weeks of a weight cut or a cut look like?
Eggs and salmon. Oh, man. So start of camp will be 2,600 to 2,400 calories. Lose maybe 200 calories every other week. The last week or 3 will be between 18 and 1,600. And then the last week, I'll probably be about 1,000. But it's a manipulation of your macros to change the relationship to your body to the scale. So eliminating fiber, eliminating carbohydrates to get rid of glycogen, and eliminating salt and water loading to flush out all the toxins and salt out of your system. So your relationship to the scale is a lot lighter than what it would be. So that's a kind of trick. But there's not much food going on. It's terrible.
How are you functioning with your training at that point? You just on autopilot?
You don't really train the last week for sure. You just go through the motions, feed the cat, like I said before, get a sweat, break a sweat, jump in the sauna, let the juices flow, prep you ready for the weight cut itself. But there's not much going on that week. You know, you're trying to recover to the best of your ability, especially on low food. And that's really, that's a kind of simplified version of it. There's a lot of small things, you know, like supplements and stuff like that we could talk about for hours. But, you know, these, like for instance, the UFC provides you a packet of supplements. You take multivitamins, creatine, all that sort of stuff, fight week. So, you know, that's another thing that we do. But, you know, we're just trying to recover that last week and get to the fight, get to the dance, and then go and do business.
What's the hardest part about being in the UFC that people don't realise?
Dieting and cutting weight is so hard, man. That would make me retire, you know. Being in the UFC and fighting is what you want to do. I don't want to cut weight. You know, it's just part of the process. But we got to do it. You either suffer in the 8 weeks prior to the fight, or you suffer on Saturday night. You know, no bad intentions when I say this, but Jordan Vucenic has moved up in weight class. You know, I fought him last. Did not suffer the 8 weeks leading up to the fight, and I manhandled him. I threw him about like an empty tracksuit. So, you know, you either suffer or you don't. You get the odd phenom like Gamrot, who I train with. He walks around at 80 kilos, cuts weight in 2 weeks, but he's a phenom. He's a really, what would I say, like specialist in one area.
Yeah.
And he's managed to navigate around that. Whereas I'm a specialist of suffering, I quit, and I'm going to quit, and I'm going to diet, and I'm going to push myself to the absolute limits to get to where I want to be.
Yeah, I heard Nico Carrillo talking about the fight that he lost. He just didn't have it in him to get to that weight class again. So he's gone up in weight class, and now and he's just won recently through like an absolute killer body shot. So it's interesting about how fighters' careers and weights evolve over the course of a career.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I will go up, but at the moment, why fix it when it's not broken? So,
Well, you've got the dig in you to get to the weight you need to.
Of course. Nobody ain't going to stop me, and all the coaches at ATT, they're all laughing at me because they ask me, do you want my iPhone on so you can watch a film in the bath? I'm like, no, just turn the light off. Just sit in the darkness, man.
So a hot bath?
Hot bath, yeah. So it needs to be a certain degree of temperature. And you sit in the bath, you jump out, you go into the towels, continue the sweat without overheating. But like I close my. It's weird. I don't know why I do it, but like I just sit in the bath on my own, in my own thoughts, just thinking, and it's like I genuinely just close my eyes and just think, and I'll sometimes talk to the guys, but I'm in my brain and just like thinking about the fight and visualizing, getting my hand raised and the feelings and the smells, and it's like a weird process. It's quite an emotional process because I'm like, do this, It's a funny.
Are you into that sort of visualization then?
Oh, massive, huge. One thing that made me think about that was, your surroundings. I was very scared to go and fight. I'm shitting my pants every time I go in there. I'm starting to kind of counter it now. I'm getting used to it. But the analogy that I heard is this teacher was in a playground and he had a 2x4, put it in the ground. All the kids were running across it, not falling off it. They were getting across it really easily. And he changed the environment. He put the plank of wood up on 2 sheds at 6 foot in the air. And he said, right, kids, go across it now. Not one of them even tried it. The plank of wood was still the same width. You just changed the environment around it. And that's the same with fighting in the UFC. Walking out to a 20,000 crowd, or going into the gym and walking into the cage in the gym and just fighting. And Robert Whiteford always said to me, he's like, mate, it's another day in the office. You have done this 1,000 times. The environment has changed. And that's the only thing that changes. And I'm slowly getting there. It just takes time.
That's so powerful. One of the things I teach on to the guys that I do sales coaching with is stories sell, facts tell.
Yep.
So facts could have been, oh, Chris, it's just another environment for you. But because you had the plank of wood story and the playground story, and then you can bring it over to the cage versus the gym to the actual arena, that stays with you. And now you're able to teach it on to others. So it's great to have these little anchors or little stories in our heads that we go back to that help us to be like, right, stop being scared. You've been in this environment many times before. We go again.
Yeah, for sure. And same with the analogy with a piece of paper, with trying to find the square root of something, it's just like, or the square foot, sorry. But like that bit of paper is just a blank bit of paper. Whereas like if you told me to do that in an environment
out in the farm, you want to.
Exactly, yeah. But okay, I need to find it. So
yeah, there's the whole if you judge a fish by the monkey's ability to climb a tree, you're going to think the fish is pretty useless, aren't you?
Aye, geez, aye, for sure.
What is left for you within the UFC? Like, what do you want to achieve?
So I've got some short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. There's a couple of things even outside of that I want to like fight related still. I want to get my picture up on the American Top Team wall. I have many fighters that I look up to, and I want to get my name on that wall. That's probably my short-term goal. Medium-term goal would be to get into the top 10, top 15. And then the end goal, which is nowhere near me and might not be even achievable, is to become champion. So I didn't even think I was going to get into the UFC. People will, like all these people that jump online and say, I will become, sometimes you don't really know. And you don't know, but saying the words, obviously your visualization, it's good. But I don't like to say that on podcasts and stuff like that. But obviously, that if I was to really imagine I was the best fighter in the world, I could say, okay, maybe I could be. I remember in 2014, there was no way I could have said I'm going to be in the UFC, because like, where's your credibility? How can you tell me you're going to be in the UFC? So I built myself up to these short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. And, I don't know I think it was maybe a Chris Williamson podcast. It's like, you don't get to where you're at by shouting affirmations in the mirror. You get to with the confidence of doing what you do.
Yeah,
so
him and Hormozy, that's such a good line, isn't it?
So I want to just do these short things, like my short-term goal, the picture, get to the top 15, and we'll just do what I need to do. And if, like I said to you before, I will not quit. So if I don't make it, I'm happy with my life. And, I've done what I can to become champion, and there's not a stone left unturned. Like, if I could go back and think to like, what could I have done in the past that maybe is a little bit better? I'm doing what I can. You know, I just literally, I say I've got I'm new, what's the analogy I use? Piss with the cock you've got. And that's literally what I'm doing. I'm just doing what I can with the shell that I have now. And
That's
just
funny.
doing
You're
it.
one of the only people I've heard use that phrase apart from me, because I've said that before. So like in sales, you can only piss with the cock you've got. The product
Yeah.
or service you've got is only as good as you can bring to the table.
Exactly.
In the same way, if somebody's a 5'2" guy from Stirling, they're not going to be an NBA basketball player.
No.
Like we've got
For sure,
got,
but he
we've
might be a
defined it.
fighter, you know, he might be in the UFC, but he might be a footballer, but certainly ain't going to be a basketballer, eh? So, you know, like me, I wanted to be a rugby player, it just wasn't happening, so I moved on, you know.
So cool, man. What about away from the fight game? What are you focusing on?
Family. So I have no plan B. Maybe I will, obviously, with fighting comes money. I maybe invest in some things, try my best, you know. I've got no idea what to do. I'm speaking to guys, I'm speaking to people. Maybe it may be property, it may be this. I don't know. I just literally don't know. I have no clue. I'm trying to navigate myself through that with my accounting and setting up limited companies. And it's just like a bit of a long, drawn out process. But these things come in time, and I'm a quite a good learner. I listen to podcasts about companies now, and it's weird how I'm doing it, but I never think to myself if I was like school listening to this sort of stuff. But
We're
my
fortunate with the content that's out there now, though. We can really benefit from it all.
like people say to me all the time, like everybody like does moan about like people being on their phone, but what a weapon it is, you know. Even like people used to read newspapers or books, but now we have this instant thing. If I use ChatGPT on the way down the road here, like compose me an email for this, and you're like, Jesus, you know.
Yeah, saves a lot of time and really helps you.
Jesus, man.
But use it wisely, because people could, like you say, I mean, the danger is you end up scrolling TikTok, or you could be consuming something that allows you to set up a limited company, that allows you to build more generational wealth for your family.
Exactly, aye. But yeah, like I say, my plan B is the family, but that is plan B, plan A. I want to make sure my family has money. I had a terrible childhood, and I just don't want my kids to have that. And whether that means I spoil them a little bit, I'll do that. But I'm tough on my daughter, especially. She's such a free spirited person. She's so out there. She was probably a me. I'm very tough on
Do
her.
you see yourself in her?
Yeah, for sure. I also see my mum in her, which is pretty crazy. But I will not give her. I will give her everything she needs, because I feel like the mentality she has, if I give her what she wants, she'll get what she wants, if that makes sense. She's not one of these wee brats, you know. She's a bit stroppy and that, a bit moody, but that's just wee girls, isn't it? But I will give them the world, and, you know, the world is their oyster. You know, I remember I was on holiday after my fight in Mexico. No, my fight in Paris after I won the 50k, and I had the wee man strapped to my chest in the carrier. I let my missus get her makeup on. I walked down to the beach, and she's just throwing stones in the water, and I'm sitting back. I got a wee bit emotional when I was sitting there, and I was like, this world will be whatever you want it to be. Like, I literally will work my arse off for you. So if they want all my money, they'll get it, you know. And it was quite a surreal experience to be like, I've got a little bit. I didn't have it in my bank, but I knew it was coming. I'm like, okay, the world's your oyster. I'll let you do what you need, and I'm sure I'll navigate her in the right direction. I don't think she'll be spoiled, you know.
Yeah, you're going to give her that guidance, and you want to come from a place of abundance, like you're saying. You've got the money that's coming into fruition because of the hard work that you've done, and you're giving your kids the best possible platform to go forth from.
For sure, you know. I think being a role model and giving them the platform is super important, because many kids and many families are split up these days, you know. It's just because they're always maybe looking on social media for the better thing. The grass isn't always green where you water it. I messed it up. The grass isn't always green on the other side. The grass is green where you water it. It's just like you get what you give, and relationships are hard. You know, me and my missus not argue about us, but the kids, and, you know, we dispute, but we love each other, and we always just forget about it in the end, you know. And sometimes people think it's easier just to split and then share the kid, you know.
I think that's things like social media have perpetuated that as well, haven't they?
Massively. And, you know, everybody sees the great. Nobody posts the rubbish online. It's a wicked world we live in. It's very difficult to navigate through it, because you'll see, for instance, nutrition is a big thing. Keto, paleo, carnivore. Just eat food, man. Just numbers. It's just numbers, you know. And scientifically proven that if you look after the numbers, they'll look after you, you know.
Yeah, it's a confusing place, mate. But I'm so glad to see you pushing on, leading by example for your family, for the guys that follow you as well, which is really cool.
For sure, yeah. I can't believe how many followers I gained after my last fight. It's a bit surreal, but yeah, it's great. And I thank everybody. And like I said before, if anybody sees me out in the street, please just attack me if you want.
Yeah, class. Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show. If people
Um,
want to continue the conversation with you, where should they head towards?
Probably my Instagram, but your message might be deleted. Like we said before. No, the best thing for, is Instagram. I do try and get back to as many people as I can. Obviously, the volume of people have stopped messaging me like that right after a fight is not the best time to message me, because the traffic that comes through my Instagram. I try and give back to people as much as I can. I try and sign stuff and do all that sort of stuff. I try and give information out. I do seminars, so if you're ever in the Glasgow and surrounding area, I always do seminars around about here. So get me there.
Beautiful stuff. That'll be linked in the show notes. Chris, thank you to you.
Perfect.
And thank you to the listener. I'll be back to speak to you guys again very, very soon.